Well, hello everyone, and welcome to Secrets of Saturn. I am Jason Lindgren, your host. Once again, I had a problem with Restream, and I thought I had it defeated this time, but to no avail. It duplicated again, and I got rid of the duplicate, and it still screwed it all up anyway, so I don't know. I'm going to have to go through all of the settings, and there's things like stream keys and all this other crap that I just don't know what they are very well, so... Anyway, some work ahead of me there. Sorry about that once again for the umpteenth time, folks, but regardless, here we are. Okay, so on this week, I am joined by Wayne McCroy, Crow777, my better half Rose, and Karen B is with us. I'm not sure for how long, but maybe for a little while, maybe for a long while. But I thought I'd bring Karen on at least for the beginning so she can talk about the awesome event going on this weekend. Karen, take her away.
Why, thank you, Jason. This weekend, we are having another event. It's called Solar Return Celebration, and it's going to be at the same location as Flatoverfest in Greenville, South Carolina, at the Greenville Shrine Event Center. The website you can go to get all the information is flatearthfestivals.com. And in the menu there, you'll find links to the Solar Return, giving you all the information for tickets and who's going to be there. But we have a whole bunch of stuff there. This one is based around music and art. So it's all live music, and there will be art on display and various other miscellaneous things going on too. Too much to list. So that's what we've got going on. Jason's going to be playing live. Chief Crow and the Flat Earthworms, and ODD TV, and One Big Love, and Christian Knapp, and Baldini's going to be there, noodling, and he's hosting a jam session, like an open jam session. So that'll be fun too. And I'm also going to get to premiere a brand new song from Conspiracy Music Guru. So he sent me a new video that'll be playing.
That's going to be fun.
So you have heard it, Karen, then?
Yes.
Join the club. Can you imagine how I felt the past couple of months? I wanted him to do it on the 27th instead of the 29th so that I can, sing along.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's gonna be a really good time. It's gonna be like a huge energy release. I think it'll be great. This is not formal. This is not about being lectured at or watching presentations. This is about art, music, celebration, fun, creativity. So it's gonna be a blast.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. The more casual thing should be interesting because we don't have to worry about being so. Well, I guess we have to be on our game because, especially me, because I actually have to perform and not screw up. But it'll be cool because it'll be more of a get-together and everybody's energy syncing together as opposed to raptly paying attention to information being conveyed.
Yes. It's definitely going to be it's going to be much more easier to pay attention to each other than the stage. Even though there's music playing, it's you know what I mean?
You guys tell it like it is. It's going to be a freaking party, all right? It's going to be a freaking party. It's going to be so much fun. It's the definition of what a party or what a party should be. So if you've never experienced a party and you want to know what it is, this is that.
Exactly.
So I know we're not doing like people talking on stage and things like that, but are any of the key figures that a lot of people like to listen to going to be there as well? Because I never really asked. Are a whole bunch of people that I love and respect also going to be in attendance just to be there?
Yes. Yes. Bob's going to be there. Actually, Cammie and Zach are going to be doing their How the World Works exhibit like they had at Flattoberfest. They're going to do that again here at the Solar Return because everybody loved it. It was it was just one of the best. Everybody had a lot of interest in it because of all the little science stuff there, and they were learning about how things could work in our geocentric realm, and they loved it. So that'll be there. So yeah, there's gonna be a lot of people there.
And I'm assuming tickets are still available, right?
Yes.
Cool.
Yes.
Well, Flattoberfest.
You can get tickets at the door too.
Okay, so it's an open room, I guess you would say.
Yeah.
Well, Flattoberfest was definitely a success, and as long as this one is also a success, that means we can keep doing these things because that's everyone out there telling us, hey, we want you to do these things, and I'm happy to take a part as long as you want me to.
Awesome.
Yeah, man, and it's great that the Shriners let you use their gigs there because Shriners love to party for sure.
Oh, and they love us.
Well, they probably love your money.
Yeah, I'm sure they do. But after Flattoberfest, the women there, they were like, everybody is so nice. I can't believe how nice y'all are. Because that's how it is. Everybody, has respect for other people. When we get into large groups, because we all have appreciation for each other and what we're here for.
Well, everybody was super chill and happy to be together, especially after the last year. Holy shit. But I mean, it was just, I've never felt so much awesomeness. It's very different than when you go to a professional function or even a more professional kind of show at a club or concert. There's always this kind of us and them thing, like there's the people on the stage and then there's the audience. It wasn't like that. It's like, sure, there are people on the stage and there are people giving their presentations and all that, but it wasn't like that. Like, it was amazing. Like, I couldn't walk across the room without somebody wanting to give me a hug or say hello. Like, it was wonderful. I loved it.
Yes. Yep. And we're going to do that again.
Absolutely. And I hope this one is a success so that we can do it again in a couple of months because I love these kinds of things. And this is my first time I've actually performed in literally years in front of an audience. So if it goes well and people like what I do, I am kicking around the idea of doing like a house show tour kind of thing. Let's not knock over the water bottle, Jason. Let's put that out of the way. Because
water bottles and computers don't go well together.
They don't. I completely agree. But I want something out of all this to blossom, if you know what I mean. Like if people like what I'm doing here, and this doesn't mean other people can't even do it with me, but I want to go to places, maybe 20, 30 people or more if they can fit, do the thing I do with the acoustic thing, but tie it into all of the rest of the podcasts and the information and have great conversation and maybe even live stream some of them just so that other people can be involved. I don't know. I'm kicking around these ideas. So if anybody likes my way of performing, the songs that I write and that kind of thing at the event, let me know. I want to think about possibly doing more of this kind of thing. It actually won't even be on the scale that this would be, which I'm assuming is going to be a couple hundred people. This will probably be more small and intimate things until things open up. I mean, if it gets big enough that we could do it at a club or something like that, well, that's cool, but I'm not even worried about that yet. I'm thinking more like my acoustic guitar, my little Bose system, and I play, and we all talk, and if Crow wants to join in on Skype if he happens to be around, we could do that. That kind of thing. So anyway, let me know what you think, folks, and we'll take it from there over the next couple of weeks. But I would love to go out starting to meet with people and getting together and see if we can build this community more, because I am completely opposed to every single thing that these assholes did to us the past year plus.
Absolutely. And they've made it to where we even before, it was already hard for us to go out into the general public and enjoy it because people are so brainwashed in general before this. Now it's downright impossible. It's just impossible. So we need to build our own stuff. We need to make our own stuff and get away from that garbage.
Well, this is just it. And this even ties in with some of the things I talk a lot about, all the nerd channels that I watch and things like that. the crazies out there are destroying everything on purpose. It's all about propaganda now. And the one thing that I keep thinking about, and I'm hearing some of them start to get this in their heads too, start making your own shit. If Star Wars sucks, make your own universe. Start right. I mean, there are so many talented people out there. If you're an artist, maybe you can make a comic book. If you're a filmmaker, maybe you can shoot a pilot of your own. Whatever it happens to be. Podcasting. Anybody can do podcasting these days. $100 gets you a good enough mic to do podcasting. Even just not even like major production stuff. Just the more voices, the better. Because the one thing I have noticed over and over and over again when I look at what's going on out there, everybody's got their own take on things, and somebody might find one person's way of doing things better than another's. And it's all about just building community and getting the information out there, because there's so much bullshit that's bombarded at us daily that I've had enough of it. I'm on the attack now.
Yeah, exactly. I'm done. Because obviously it's not going to get any better, right? It's not going to get any better. So,
well, before we move on to the document, let's just tie this up with this. Does everybody remember an event in September about 20 years ago? Did any of that go back to quote-unquote normal? No fucking way. Whatever they took from us, we never got back. So if anyone hasn't considered this yet.
Still getting molested. I still got to get EMF irradiated every time you go through the airport. Got to take off your stupid shoes every time you go through the airport.
Gotta pour out your water bottle and then buy another more shitty water bottle that has fluoride
more
in
expensive. The whole thing's just ridiculous. Absolutely. So no, you are never getting back rights, if you want to call them that, from any governing body that took them away from you. You're screwed. They're not doing it. The only way that anything's going to change is if we fight back. But that being said, we can do our own stuff. We don't need you. We don't need your stupid airlines. You cannot force us to wear masks. Fuck off. We're going to just do things on our own. As far as the airline's concerned, I would love for private pilots to start working with people so that things can be made more affordable. Like, okay, if everybody wants to go here, we can coordinate so that this is affordable to pay for the gas and give the pilots some money, like all that kind of stuff. There are so many of us that we could make a difference. We don't need their systems. This is the one thing that everybody needs to get. If Star Wars sucks, don't watch Star Wars. If Star Trek sucks now, don't watch Star Trek. There's plenty of shit out there that we can enjoy entertainment-wise or go to. Like, we can't go to major concerts from a major label. Who cares? Most of those artists are friggin' sold out satanic retards anyway.
That's right. That's right.
So anyway, I'm going to stop ranting about that. Anybody got anything they want to say about that before we get into the document we're going to break down?
Yeah, everybody playing music at Solar Return is not a satanic brainwashed retard.
I should hope nobody is. The music I write is my idea that I had, the group of songs that I'm constantly adding to now that I started a few years back when I started a music project that I called Cult of Saturn. The reason why I called it Cult of Saturn is because there is a Jordan Maxwell video I watched 1 billion times for the however many years. It's been out for a long time now, probably 20 years by now. And I was like, that's a cool name. It sounds everybody who knows me knows that I'm in love with the decade of the 60s, even though I know so much of the propaganda behind it. I like the decade. I like the music. I like the vibe. I like the clothes. I like it a lot. And I was like, that sounds like a cool, trippy 60s name, but it also has a meaning. So my idea always has been, if I call a music project that and someone hears one of my songs, they might Google Cult of Saturn, and while they may or may not find the music, but what else are they going to find? You're going to find out who the Cult of Saturn is, there's a good chance. And that's what I want. It was almost like a trick. A good trick, a positive trick. Go in, find this information, start learning. You're like, what the hell is the Cult of Saturn? Oh my God. So that's what I started to do with the whole music side of it. And then the songs themselves, I try and lace in imagery and words and symbolism and things to get people to think in that way. And then, of course, I started doing the podcasting thing. I started Secrets of Saturn a couple years back until I hooked up with Crow, and then that thankfully has shot into the stratosphere. So there we go. That's my whole plan, and I really kind of put my music on the sidelines for years, and I sincerely miss being a musician. And if people like what I do, I mean, if you think I suck, then obviously I can't do this. But if you like what I do and we can start doing things and tying these things together, it's what I always wanted to do. It's a huge passion of mine. We'll see what happens.
That's so great. I'm glad glad that you're getting back into it. And also, like for myself, I was big into art, and used to draw and paint a lot years ago. And then for years, I just was not into it. I just wasn't motivated or inspired to do art again. And now I've been painting again, so I have a bunch of paintings and stuff that I'll have at Solar Return as well. So
awesome.
It's a great thing.
See, that it's these things like you get so bogged down in life that you put things that you're absolutely passionate on the side. For instance, Crow 777 plays mandolin. He also plays guitar, but lately he's been having a passion for mandolin. How's the mandolin playing, Crow?
Well, since Blix came into my life, it's been a lot. As a matter of fact, I just picked it up 2 nights ago for the first time in about 4 months. And I was just learning back then, so I forgot everything I had to remember again. But he's getting older now, and he'll chill probably in another 6 months. Excuse me, but yeah, I'd rather play mandolin. I'm just tired of all the programmed out music that I grew up with. So I started going back to like real Americana music, just because I like to hear people jam.
Yeah, and that's what I want to do. And the big thing I really want to do, I didn't even mention this, is I'm just doing this solo acoustic because I'm my own singer-songwriter. I want to do this as a full rock band. That's always been my passion. I haven't been in a rock band in years. The last thing I did was before I moved to Louisiana 10, 11, whatever it was, years ago. I actually filled in on bass in my friend's cover band because he needed somebody. That's not even an instrument I really enjoy playing all that much, but at least it was something to get out and do. So yeah, I would love to find musicians who are totally awake to things. This is it. I can't just go join a cover band. I could probably find a million bands to get into in southern Louisiana, but I don't want to be around a bunch of druggies and drunks and all that kind of stuff who just want to play shitty covers. I want to do the music I'm writing that's supposed to be about a positive enlightenment kind of thing. That's everything I do in my life. I try to be about positive awareness and taking people to a higher minded place. As Corona and I are always saying, it's all about the higher mindedness. All right, so let me pull up this document. Oh, you know what? I did the same mistake I make every week. I never found a link to give to everybody. So I'm going to look for a link. The document this week is called The Agenda Setting Function of Mass Media, because that never happens, right? This is an article in Public Opinion Quarterly from June of 1972. So this is ages ago, the year before I was born, in fact. But Wayne, this was your pick, so why don't you talk about this for a moment? I'm going to see if I can find a link for everybody, and let's take it from there.
Okay, this one's called The Agenda Setting Function of Mass Media. It was written by Maxwell E. McCombs and Donald L. Shaw. And these guys, I believe, were both professors of journalism or some such thing at some major university. I don't remember which one off the top of my head, but they were talking about in this article how the news media and the media in general can be used for setting agendas and putting ideas out there into the public consciousness in order to bring about societal changes that whatever the powers might be looking for, whatever think tank groups or whatever would want to bring, into the public consciousness. So that's kind of what this is about here tonight. And it talks about some specifics of things, and it talks about all the different methods and platforms and tools that they use to do this. So I thought this would be a good one to go through, especially since it's from 1972. You could see the long game being played here, as always, because that's what these people are about, the long game. This stuff has been going on from time immemorial. There's always been these select few people in the world who understand human psychology really well and know how to steer the minds of the masses through using these different kind of tools. And the modern advent of mass media is no different. In fact, it kind of put this whole operation of controlling people on steroids when they were able to actually have printing presses and then radio and then television and now the internet. Even though when they did this this article, the internet wasn't even thought of yet. It wasn't even really a thing at that point. Even though we see that's true, we could apply some of these same principles to the use of the internet today, or social media especially. Like, that's kind of where I think a lot of the social media concepts got their start is through different kinds of studies like this that show, hey, how could we use these mass media outlets to achieve the things we want with altering the public's behavior? And as we go through, we'll see exactly how they do it, what tools they use to do it, and where some of these ideas come from. So I don't think there's much more to really say to introduce this paper too much. I hope Jason found a link to drop in the chat.
I sure did. If it works, just let us know. I put it in the DLive and the YouTube. If it doesn't work, let me know. I'll dig up another one real quick. But I'm ready to start this unless anybody has any comments. Here we go. In choosing and displaying news, editors, newsroom staff, and broadcasters play an important part in shaping political reality. Readers learn not only about a given issue, but also how much importance to attach to that issue from the amount of information in a news story and its position. In reflecting what candidates are saying during a campaign, the mass media may well determine the important issues. That is, the media may set the agenda of the campaign. The authors are associate professors of journalism at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. So right off the bat, they're telling you the way it is, aren't they?
Yeah, first sentence, they come right out. In choosing and displaying news, editors, newsroom staff, and broadcasters play an important role in shaping political reality. See, they're it's right in the first sentence. Who's the one that's setting the agenda? Who's steering political views? Well, the media. That's exactly who. That's what their job is. They've gone from this function of being the fourth estate and just reporting the news and trying to keep those people in positions of power honest and reporting on their misdeeds to becoming the mouthpiece of the political set. And that's what this is telling us in no uncertain terms right here.
Well, they showed that in a big way this last election cycle, didn't they? They kept saying the AP has called it. Well, good for you, AP. Since when is the AP the fucking government? No, the Electoral College calls it. So we saw right off the bat that they were admitting that, hey, media controls things. If the media says it, it is so. Except that that's bullshit, of course.
But see, that's the problem. People have it in their mindset because of the role the media has had in its early years of being the fourth estate and, the watchdog of the people. People trusted that. And that kind of got passed down from generation to generation that they trust this as a reliable source of information. And that being the case, if the news says it, if the news media says it, it must be true. And that's just the mindset people have had because that's kind of the approach they've taken through the years is they slowly began to degenerate from what I believe started out as something legit where there were investigative journalists and things like that really went out and broke these major news stories and looked into corruption and all these different things. But those are long past now because now, you don't get on the air unless you have the tacit approval of those people who call the shots, the ones like the AP newswires of the world, the ones that actually write the script that they want passed on to the people.
Okay.
Which actually I could add, interestingly enough, when I went out to see if I could get a news reporter job, which I did, and actually on my first try I got it, it wasn't long before I found that the only way you can get anything through the editors and published in print was to go to a search engine, find the top trending stories using Bing, Google. There were 3 or 4 engines at the time. I think MSN was one. You deduce the 5 to 7 keywords and then rewrite that story in your own words using the same words reorganized in the title. And for the first 2 paragraphs, the same, reiterating the keywords 5 to 7 times throughout the whole thing. That is the only way. And nobody knows who printed the first version. So it's an endless loop. And at this point, I would imagine many of the articles are being created by AI, the first one that everyone copies from.
Yeah, by the way, that's not just political news and things like that. For instance, like let's say you wanted to look up something about the new season of The Mandalorian. You'll see the same exact thing. If you put it in Google and you see the news, you'll see all these articles come up. I'll use a professional press shot from The Mandalorian, and the titles will all be similar, and then you go and read them, and it's the same shit. Even though they're completely different places that are publishing the article.
That is exactly why. And by the way, the reason I did it is to see if I could get real news into the cycle, which you can't, because I was active. Well, I was active on my telescope, so I figured this is firsthand, one of a kind, what I do with my scope, and so I'll report one of these. And so part of the rules was it has to be sourced from 2 trusted sources. So when I submitted my one-of-a-kind original first-hand news that I did behind my telescope, the editor would not approve it. And when I said, so there's no first-hand news can ever be approved here, he said, that's not true. I said, well, I just submitted some, and you told me that it didn't have 2 trusted sources to back it up. And I said, it's impossible because there aren't 2 trusted sources with me when I'm using my telescope. Point is, you can't do it. You cannot add legitimate news into the mass media news cycle.
So let's throw the question out there before we continue with this. When do you think journalism as a whole got a bullet in the head? Because back in the day, there were people that did journalism. And I'm sure that things were controlled, but it's not to the point that it is now. I'm sure it got worse as the decades went by. But I'm kind of curious, when would we think that perhaps the last journalist was thrown out the window?
Well, there was always some, but it was already in the bag to do World War II. It had to be. But if you go watch Citizen Kane, voted the best movie of all time regularly, they tell you the truth there. And they're telling you that people like, what's the dude's name who owns the castle in California that I can't remember? The big news guy.
Hearst.
Yeah, Hearst.
Yeah.
So,
Hearst, yeah.
so the movie was riffing on Hearst, not admitting that it was riffing on Hearst. But basically, what he did is he got sick of not being able to get the political things he wanted. So he told his guys, "Go buy the 12 most influential papers in the country." This is early in the 1900s. So it shows you by the time the World Wars had come around, they already had pretty much what they needed in the bag. It just took them to about the 70s or 80s to put a bow on it.
Well, we also know that by the end of World War I, Edward Bernays was already getting his fingers in the pie.
That's true. And by the end of World War II, the intelligence agencies had wormed their way into the news media outlets as well, with the rise and the advent of the OSS, which is the precursor of the CIA. So that, in and of itself, also contributed to this.
All right, I'll be back in a few minutes, guys.
All right, I will continue on unless anyone else has anything else they want to contribute. In our day, more than ever before, candidates go before the people through the mass media rather than in person. And remember that this article came out in 1972. That was a long time ago. The information in the mass media becomes the only contact many have with politics. The pledges, promises, and rhetoric encapsulated in news stories, columns, and editorials constitute much of the information upon which a voting decision has to be made. Most of what people know comes to them second or third hand from the mass media or from other people. Although the evidence that mass media deeply changes attitudes in a campaign is far from conclusive, the evidence is much stronger that voters learn from the immense quantity of information available during each campaign. People, of course, vary greatly in their attention to mass media political information. Some, normally the better educated and most politically interested, and those least likely to change political beliefs, actively seek information, but most seem to acquire it, if at all, without much effort. It just comes in. As Barrelson succinctly puts it, I don't know who that is, by the way, on any single subject, many hear, but few listen. But Barrelson also found that those with the greatest mass media exposure are most likely to know where the candidates stand on different issues. Treneman and McQuail found the same thing in a study of the 1959 general election in England. Voters do learn. They apparently learn, furthermore, in direct proportion to the emphasis placed on the campaign issues by the mass media. Specifically focusing on the agenda-setting function of the media, Lang and Lang observe the mass media force attention to certain issues. They build up public images of political figures. They are constantly presenting objects suggesting what individuals in the mass should think about, know about, and have feelings about. Now let's just stop right there. Has anyone been hearing lately how there is some sort of crazy racist sort of things going on against Asians? It's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. People generally adore Asians, not only for their food, but think about all the martial arts and the culture and things like that that are completely integrated into Western TVs and movies and things like that. The worst thing we do about Asians is make fun of their accents and for how bad they drive. I mean, the thought that Western people are racist against Asians is quite frankly, absolutely retarded.
I'm going to agree with you, Jason. I was always thinking the same thing when they're coming out and they're like, oh, all this hate against Asian Americans and this and that. And I'm thinking, where? I've never seen like anywhere in my personal life where somebody has had any kind of racist tendencies towards an Asian person at all. Like anywhere. And like, there's quite a few with an Asian type background around in this area that I'm in now, as well as it's a very melting pot type of a community anymore. There's all different kinds around, but at any rate, I've never seen that, and I was always thinking the same thing. Where is this all of a sudden? And they're trying, what they're doing with that. They're trying to link it to this whole, stupid beer bug nonsense because Trump came out and said something about it being the quote-unquote China virus.
China.
Right. So that's what they're trying to do. So they're trying to link this, kind of an idea to that whole thing and make it look like just, people in general are racist against all of these different races. And, the most racist ones, of course, are, these ones that refer to themselves as the elite or think that they're the elite, like the royal family of England and the like of that. It doesn't get much more racist or elitist than them. But that's neither here nor there. But anyway, we could see how the media is used in order to push these different types of ideas. And that's exactly what's going on. And you were talking earlier, Jason, in that paragraph about Burleson. Bernard Burleson was actually a think tank operative. I don't remember where his education was from, but it says up here in the footnotes, Bernard R. Burleson, Paul F. Lazarsfeld, and William N. McPhee. Voting, University of Chicago Press, 1954. And it says, of course, to some degree, candidates have always depended upon the mass media, but radio and television brought a new intimacy into politics. So this was a guy that did a lot of psychological studies and profiling on people for a lot of different political motivations. And there's quite a few of them. That Paul Lazarsfeld guy, too. That name should be familiar with people as well. If you haven't heard of that, look up that guy too, because these guys are into social engineering. That's what they do. These are ones that really operate in some of these more scientific think tank groups and look at different kinds of studies to try and get to the nuts and bolts of how people think in political terms and things of that nature. So that's kind of what's going on there. But yeah, you could see what they're saying here. They could set these different functions with the mass media, the things that they want. So, it says here the mass media force attention to certain issues. Well, don't we see that every day in the news? And if that one's not working, they'll switch it up, won't they? Whatever the issue is at the time that they want you to think about. And in the meantime, they go ahead and push through whatever other agendas that they want. And it seems like they're starting to shift up the agendas now that they're pushing forward, these issues that they're pushing to the forefront of the news, because I think by and large people are starting to see through it. It's been over a year of this stupid beer bug nonsense, and people are sick to death of it, and they see how retarded and absolutely incomprehensible that it all is, that it just does not add up. So now they're trying to shift up these narratives to keep people in that fear state once again. And how do they do that? Well, they play a couple different cards. They play the race card, and then they'll play the violence card because, they, lo and behold, they just so happen to have a new gun rights bill going through the Congress right now. They want to do some legislation on gun control issues. So it's amazing how all these things always happen at just the right time for this stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Ladies, anybody want to chime in on anything? You're certainly welcome to. All right, I will continue then.
Also,
Oh, go ahead.
right when this all started, right before, I didn't even know about the shooting. And I was scrolling through Instagram and I see one of my, old friends post a thing that said "Stop Asian Hate." I was so confused.
It's like, what Asian hate?
Exactly. And when you're talking about this just doesn't happen, I was like, why is this person posting this? What happened? I immediately knew it had to be something from the news because I was like, well,
That's because it
this
sounds
doesn't make
ridiculous, right?
sense. It sounded absolutely ridiculous. I immediately thought, okay, what happened?
Yeah, I'm glad I'm not the only one with that problem, Karen, honestly, because it's kind of the same way for me. I'll be like scrolling through Facebook and I'll see something ridiculous on there like that. And then I think to myself, oh no, what's going on now? What kind of nonsense story are they trying to push now? And then I got to go look and see what's this about. And, because I try not to watch the television like at all. Very rarely do I really sit down and watch something on the television? Not on purpose anyway. Like we'll turn on the news or something just to see the weather, and all you hear is corona, 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 vaccine, 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 and it just drives me insane. So I drown it out. But I mean, other than that, I really spend very little time looking at news stories because I know what they are. But sometimes you have to stay informed on these things so that, when people ask you about them, you could say, hey, here's what my viewpoint is on this. And so you're somewhat aware of what's going on because, these people in positions of power are going to push whatever agenda they see fit according to whatever this news story is. And that's the thing. They use it as a gauge for the population. It is an agenda setting thing. That is the function of media. That's exactly what it's for. And that's even the entertainment. That's not even to say just the news media is for this. It's all media. That's what it's used for. And I think they make it clear in no uncertain terms in here that that's what it's for. And I think we'll get to that later on in the document. I think they talk about entertainment in here as well as being a source for agenda setting. But anyway, not to belabor that point for too long. We should probably get back to the document here because we haven't really gotten that far yet.
No, but all the
I
points
think
have
you should
already
definitely
said
get back
them.
to the document because everybody knows that since you guys are white males, you're not allowed to talk about race or your feelings about race or have any opinion on anything that has to do with social issues.
So what, we need a black
no,
guy?
I guess not. Yeah, man, we're white males. We have no say in anything. So, that's all part of our white privilege.
Okay, here we
Yes,
go.
your privileges make me feel very uncomfortable.
I'm gonna have to drop it, guys. I'm sorry. I had some people show up here.
Oh, no
It's
problem.
gonna
Karen.
get loud. So I'll drop.
I love you,
Thanks
Karen.
for having me. I love you too. And I'll see you guys this weekend.
Peace out. Have a
Thanks.
great
Have a
night.
good
Thanks
night,
for coming on.
Karen.
Thanks. Bye.
All right, here we go. Perhaps this hypothesized agenda-setting function of the mass media is most succinctly stated by Cohen, who noted that the press may not be successful much of the time in telling people what to think, but it is stunningly successful in telling its readers what to think about. While the mass media may have little influence on the direction or intensity of attitudes, it is hypothesized that the mass media set the agenda for each political campaign, influencing the salience of attitudes toward the political issues. Well, there's no doubt there. They certainly, especially nowadays, I mean, I'm not old enough to know what it was like in the early 70s, but nowadays they definitely put down, this is what the Democrats should think. This is what the Republicans should think. Who gives a shit about the libertarians? They don't exist.
Yeah, that's the truth. I mean, they give you two possible viewpoints, and that's all you're allowed to have. You could either have this viewpoint or that viewpoint. Pick one, and that's your choices. And that's a big problem because people are diverse. They have diverse opinions, diverse viewpoints. My viewpoint's not the same as yours, et cetera, et cetera. But they try to box us all into this one box or the other box. And that's the thing. You back up your team, and it's the good old-fashioned tribalism, once again. And that's what it's about. And they do this in so many different ways, and it's classic Hegelian control tools.
Well, we've said
when
this
it
how
comes
many
down
times,
to it.
Wayne, that they always divide it down to two things. It's always red versus blue, which is Democrat, Republican, black versus white, Islam versus... Like everything, it doesn't matter what it is. They always manage to pare it down to two things because that's easy to control.
Well,
Right.
everything, when you put it into a false dichotomy and give them only two options for the dumbed down mind, it's just easier. So they don't think of it as limited possibilities. They just think of it as an easy choice. And then they can just move on with their lives trying to, make money so that they can pay their bills.
Yeah, pretty
Keep
much.
it
I mean,
going.
Well, they've really got it
Yeah,
down
keep the-
from the political thing because they've got it down to CNN versus Fox News now, which is just... Really?
yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy how far they've been able to really push that whole kind of a concept. But people really buy into it. They've gone so far now. It's either you're a Trump supporter or you're a Democrat, and that's your two choices. There's no Republican Party outside of Trump anymore. That's not even a choice. It's either you're one of those kooky Trump supporters, and you have no brain, or you're a Democrat, and that's the way that the media presents it to you. And
I think it's going to become, you're into the vaccine or you're a Trump supporter.
Yeah, that's exactly how it goes. Everything is, see, Trump did his job for them masterfully, okay? He did his job masterfully. Nobody created more division than Trump in a 4-year presidency term ever. And that's exactly what the guy was put there to do. He did his job for them well. And that's what people need to understand. He wasn't there trying to help the American people. Yeah, I mean, in the beginning, it looked like he was this dark horse or whatever because of the way the media went after him and the press attacked him, and all the politicians were against him and stuff like that. That was all show. It's still all show. You notice that nothing ever came of him being impeached again, right? It's the same thing. It's the same story over and over. Just like Hillary's still a free woman from when he was going to win the presidency, and he was going to lock her up. You remember that?
You should be in jail.
It's all theater.
That's what he said.
It's all theater. It's all theater. They all work together. He did his job masterfully. He created division. He sowed the seeds of this dissent in this country for them, and the people bought into it hook, line, and sinker. And now they're using him as, the next butt of the joke. As it comes down to it, because like Rose was just saying, you either take the vaccine or you're a Trump supporter. You're one of those idiots that supports Trump. See how they lump it all together into these two categories? There's your two options again, and it doesn't matter what the other side of the option is now. What the other side is, right? It's going to be you're a Trump supporter, so that represents everything bad in the public media, okay, in the public news media. So. That's the way that they do it. So either you're in with you believe science or you're a Trump supporter. That's how they're going to do it. They're going to frame the argument that way. That it's become an insult for the news media to call somebody that. And you could see how a lot of the public has really caught on to that whole frame of mind. And it creates this false dichotomy, like Rose was saying. And that's just how they operate things. They keep these dichotomies going. Dichotomy, two. See? Two choices. That's it. They always narrow it down to these two choices. And they put you in this box or that box. And that way they could control you and lump you together with this group or lump you together with that group. And that's one of the articles of power that they wield with this whole thing, is by categorizing people in two different categories. And they always put it in two different categories, even though it may be different, different issues per se, but they always create two sides on each issue, and they're able to lump you into this one category in this issue, and then your other affiliations with other issues, they could put you in this box, and they use algorithms to figure out people's behaviors on a massive scale with this. Because if they know, say, you're anti-abortion and you're anti-vaccine and you're, say, a religious person or something like that, they categorize you that way. See, you click off these different boxes, and in so doing, they could target you with algorithms because of that, based upon your beliefs. They could know a lot of stuff about you just based on those couple things. And that's what it's all about. And that's why information is king right now. And that's what this whole agenda setting narrative of media is about, because they put this little hook out there for people to bite on. And even though it says here, they know they could tell you what to think about. They may not be able to necessarily tell you what to think, but they could tell you what to think about. And that's the reason they do that. That's the bait, see? So then when you react to that, they know how you reacted to that and what your viewpoint is on that. So now they're able to put you in this category and put you in this little box and be able to better manipulate you down the road.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Let's just move on. I could say so much about it, but we still haven't gotten very far. To investigate the agenda-setting capacity of the mass media in the 1968 presidential campaign, this study attempted to match what Chapel Hill voters said were key issues of the campaign with the actual content of the mass media used by them during the campaign. Respondents were selected randomly from lists of registered voters in 5 Chapel Hill precincts, economically, socially, and racially representative of the community. By restricting this study to one community, numerous other sources of variation, for example, regional differences or variations in media performance, were controlled. Between September 18th and October 6th, 100 interviews were completed. To select these 100 respondents, a filter question was used to identify those who had not yet definitely decided how to vote, presumably those most open or susceptible to campaign information. Only those not yet fully committed to a particular candidate were interviewed. Borrowing from the Treneman and McQuail strategy, this study asked each respondent to outline the key issues as he saw them, regardless of what the candidates might be saying at the moment. Interviewers recorded the answers as exactly as possible. You know, I remember this from back when Obama was running for the first time, and I remember there was a girl I worked with who was doing stuff for the Obama campaign. This is after I was really getting pretty savvy with stuff. And I said, so, okay, you like Obama so much? And she's like, yeah. I was like, cool, what are his key issues? Name me one of them. Like, what does he represent? She's like, well, what do you mean? I was like, well, what is it about him that you really like? Like, tell me his key issues. What is he standing for that's so good? And she couldn't do it.
It's the cult of personality.
That was it.
That
she liked the idea behind this person, this figure, this image, whatever you want to call it, being elected. And I did that just to prove the point. I was hoping she would be able to actually throw a point or two at me, but nope.
No, and that's sad to say. That's what the average American voter looks at, is just the cult of personality. Oh, I like this guy. He's well-spoken or whatever, that kind of thing. Oh, he's smooth and charismatic. He could talk a good game. Not necessarily the issues they stand for. A lot of times they look at the personality or just the attributes of the person. And that goes on a lot in politics. It's one of those things where it's kind of hard to put your finger on exactly what it is about a certain candidate that appeals to people, but the people who push that candidate forward know what it is that they're trying to present, and they do everything in their power to shed that person in a very nice light, and that's what they do. And a lot of these people are pre-selected. We know that. It's not a surprise if somebody shows up at a Bilderberg meeting and then 4 years later they're running for president, Bill Clinton. It's like things like that are it goes on quite frequently. But these people know what they're doing with the use of the media as a tool to push these agendas forward.
Right. Concurrently with the voter interviews, the mass media serving these voters were collected and content analyzed. Just remember, folks, data is everything, especially these days, because that's what drives their algorithms. A pre-test in spring of 1968 found that for the Chapel Hill community, almost all the mass media political information was provided by the following sources: Durham Morning Herald, Durham Sun, Raleigh News and Observer, Raleigh Times, New York Times, Time Magazine, Newsweek Magazine, and NBC and CBS evening news broadcasts. The answers of respondents regarding major problems as I saw them and the news and editorial comment appearing between September 12th and October 6th in the sampled newspapers, magazines, and news broadcasts were coded into 15 categories representing the key issues and other kinds of campaign news. Media news content also was divided into major and minor levels to see whether there was any substantial difference in mass media emphasis across topics. For the print media, this major-minor division was in terms of space and position. For television, it was made in terms of position and time allowed. More specifically, major items were defined as follows. Number 1 was television. Any story 45 seconds or more in length and or one of the 3 lead stories. Number 2 was newspapers. Any story which appeared as the lead on the front page or on any page under a 3-column headline in which at least 1/3 of the story, a minimum of 5 paragraphs, was devoted to political news coverage. Number 3 is news magazines. Any story more than 1 column or any item which appeared in the lead at the beginning of the news section of the magazine. Number 4 is editorial page coverage of newspapers and magazines. Any item in the lead editorial position, the top left corner of the editorial page, plus all items in which 1/3, at least 5 paragraphs, of an editorial or columnist comment was devoted to political campaign coverage. Minor items are those stories which are political in nature and included in the study, but which are smaller in terms of space, time, or display than major items. So the findings. The overall major item emphasis of the selected mass media on different topics and candidates are displayed in the table that is in this document in case anybody wants to see it. It indicates that a considerable amount of campaign news was not devoted to discussion of the major political issues, but rather to analysis of the campaign itself. This may give pause to those who think of campaign news as being primarily about the issues. 35% of the major news coverage of Wallace was composed of this analysis. Has he a chance to win or not? For Humphrey and Nixon, the figures were, respectively, 30% and 25%. At the same time, the table also shows the relative emphasis of candidates speaking about each other. For example, Agnew apparently spent more time attacking Humphrey, 22% of the major news items about Agnew, than did Nixon, which were 11% of the major news about Nixon. The overall minor item emphasis of the mass media on these political issues and topics closely paralleled that of major item emphasis. All right, so a lot of this is on this particular table, so we should probably jump down, but anyone want to comment on that at all?
Yeah, you could clearly see they've outlined these different criteria for these different platforms. First of all, television, newspaper, news magazines, editorial pages, newspapers, this kind of thing. And they're saying they did an analysis of, these specific sections or parts of the newspaper in very specific places. This is on the front page in the right column, 5 paragraphs or more based upon this. They know what they're doing. This is how they sell the news, okay? This is how they sell the narrative, the agenda. It's the placement of this. If it has a major headline in a newspaper and there's 5 paragraphs on the front page in the right-hand column dedicated to it, it's going to have a psychological impact on people. That's exactly what they're talking about here. This is what it is. And if they devote more than 45 seconds to it on television in a news piece, and, that kind of thing, it's going to have a very definitive psychological impact on people. They know this. And this is one of the ways that they shape people's thoughts and opinions. And they understand this. And that's exactly what it's talking about here. And this is actually a case study of that. And there's the data in these tables here, if people want to look at it. They've determined exactly what the people's attitudes were and how to control those attitudes and manipulate those attitudes in the future. That's exactly what they did there.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm sure that these things have just gotten better and better over the years. Let's go back to Bernays for a second. What was he always chumming up? Who was he always chumming up with, I should say? And that was the newspapers. Every time he wanted to set a major event into the spin, let's say, he always saddled up with the newspapers because he knew that the ding-dongs out there would buy it. It doesn't matter what he was trying to say. Like he was trying to sell cigarettes with women walking down the street lighting their quote-unquote torches of freedoms. It wasn't about women's equality or anything like that, even though his own wife was into that. It was all about, let's think of something cool to get people emotionally attached to sell more cigarettes for whatever it was, Lucky Strike or whichever company it was at the time. And it worked.
Yeah. Hey, man, what kind of a grassroots kind of a movement can we latch onto to sell more stuff? That's what it is. That's pretty much what it is. He latched onto that whole thing and pushed it forward. Let's call it Torches of Freedom. Torches of Freedom. Yeah, that'll do it. And look at how much harm he did to the population at large through that one campaign.
Good God. And they learned from this stuff. What Bernays figured out, and I keep saying this over and over again, but I can't stress enough how important this is. They figured out that if you tie an emotion to whatever it is you're trying to push, whether it's a product or a concept, political, whatever, it doesn't matter. If you tie it to an emotion, well, you have such greater chance of success. And what is it that we saw the entire past year plus? It's fear, 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 fear. One of the most powerful emotions there is. The one emotion I have to say that they can't really target very well, other than in small parts, would be love. It's almost always a negative emotion. Would you think that's true, guys?
I would agree with that. I think it's easier for them to target the negative emotions because, by and large, it's easier to invoke a negative emotion than it is a positive emotion. Just think about that for a second. It doesn't really take a lot to make somebody aggravated, per se, or to, get a response from them in that way, or to make them fearful. If you could say or do the right thing to invoke that response, it's a lot easier to get a negative reaction from people than it is a positive one. It's much harder to get somebody to love you than it is to get them to hate you. Think about that.
Yeah, when you have a negative emotion, you're more likely to react without discernment. Like if you're feeling happy and content, then you're more likely to sit and think about things before you do something. But if you're in a state of negativity like fear or anger, then you kind of get back into that animalistic mind.
Right, that flight or fight response.
Bingo.
That's exactly what they're looking for.
Yep. Yeah, it's easy to get people to do what you want, and when you've got them... Well, here's the thing about all that. They've also got people still convinced that the government... This cracks me up, and I keep saying this too. When did people who are really starting to get very suspicious about the government over the past couple decades all of a sudden believe every fucking word that they say because they just happen to say there's some terrible disease out there that doesn't fucking exist in the way that they say it does? All of a sudden, everything they say should be obeyed. No, masks don't do anything. Oh, no, wear a mask. Oh, no, wear 2 masks. Maybe even 3. Even what they say is inconsistent. The joke's on us. I keep saying this. If this was a test, we failed.
But, Jason, those are experts. They're experts in their field. Dr. Fauci, he knows. He knows. You don't. You didn't go to school for 12 years like he did and do this for decades and decades.
That's true. I didn't. I did not get paid millions of dollars to manipulate people. I have not. That has not happened.
Precisely.
But
yeah, they hold them up as an expert, though. That's the thing that gets you. People don't seem to think for some reason that these experts could just as easily be paid off shills than anybody else just because they have some kind of a title or a degree from a certain university or something like that. Doesn't make them any less prone to sell people out for a couple of bucks.
What's also killing me is they blatantly stated that this, what they're calling a vaccine, it's not a vaccine. Everybody with half a brain knows it's not a vaccine. And they say that, no, it's not going to change anybody catching it. It's not going to change anybody transmitting it. It's not going to change you having to wear a mask by their orders. It doesn't change the social distancing. It doesn't change what needs to be shot. It changes literally nothing. By their own admission, it, quote unquote, lessens symptoms. Well, who fucking cares? I mean, take some dollar store cold medicine then if you want to lessen symptoms. Why on earth are you taking something that they're calling a vaccine when at the same time they're admitting that it does nothing and won't change anything? I don't understand that. That's not a vaccine. Vaccines traditionally are meant to inoculate you against an illness. I'm not going to argue about the science about that right now. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about just what's supposed to be facts here, whether they're true facts or not. But they even tell you that it's not, and yet every ding-dong in the world wants to run out and get this thing shot in their arm. I don't understand. This is, unfortunately, why I've gotten very despondent about the majority of people. I just think that they're retarded. What else can I say?
And the way they
Yep.
brag about it too, they run out to get it and then they brag about it like they've accomplished something.
Yeah, I mean, think about this. Let's go back 2 years in your mind right now, okay? Now, 2 years ago, if somebody would have told you, yeah, man, in 2 years from now, people are going to be running around, I got this experimental medical treatment, and I got sick, but now I feel better, and I'm glad I got it because now I won't get sick anymore. Think about that. It's an experimental medical treatment. It's gene therapy. It's not a vaccine. Just like you said, Jason. In fact, this thing is going to do more harm single-handedly than much of what they've been doing for the past couple decades. I could see that happening in the near future. This is going to have all kinds of bad ramifications on the long-term health of people. And we may not see people dropping over from it, keeling over from it right in the beginning here, although it's a couple thousand people now have died from this thing. But come long term, come 2025, sometime in that window between now and 2025, I think we're going to see a massive rise in illness among people. And it's not going to be a good thing because this experimental gene therapy that they're using and they're calling a vaccine, let's just put it this way. They claim it's not modifying your DNA. And it's not exactly modifying your DNA, but what it's doing is, I'll try to put this in a simple way for people, okay? In your body's cells, inside the cell, the nucleus produces DNA, right? This nucleus has the DNA in it, and it produces RNA to give commands to your other cells. Well, essentially what they've done is they've taken this phospholipid-coated nanoparticle and put it into your body so that your cell takes it inside of its cytoplasm, and this nanoparticle with this phospholipid coating becomes the new nucleus of the cell and uses the cell's mechanisms to produce these proteins. So it's essentially hijacked the cell in your body and been able to become a machine that manufactures anything they want in your body. When you look at it this way, it's a nanotechnology, and it's replacing the nucleus in your cell. That's exactly what it's doing. It's hijacked your cell that way. So they're correct when they say it doesn't necessarily modify your DNA, seeing as how your DNA is inside the nucleus of the cell, and this thing doesn't penetrate the nucleus. But what it does is it takes over as the new nucleus of the cell. And that's a dangerous, dangerous thing. So, I would think
Sounds
twice
horrifying.
about it. It is horrifying, isn't it? That's exactly what it is.
Yep.
It's hijacked your cells. It's hijacked your cell function.
Yeah, what is it that isn't that guy from Star Trek? Didn't he say something like science is science fiction?
Somebody asked William Shatner, who's Captain Kirk, I'm sure most people know that, just recently, and he's quite elderly now. He's in his late 80s, and this was just a couple years ago, and that guy keeps on ticking. He's very good friends, from what I understand, with Ray Kurzweil, and does a similar program to what Ray does to help with life extension. I'll tell you, he's still pretty sharp, considering he's in his late 80s. Excuse me, more sharp than the quote-unquote president, if you want to call old sniffer that. And he was asked at some kind of conference, what's the difference between science and science fiction? And he paused for just a second. He did the William Shatner pause and said, well, they're both the same thing. What is that supposed to mean? What does he know that he's not telling anybody?
That most of our science is fiction? Maybe that's what he means.
And I believe it was in reference to something about a black hole, too. But anyway, you got to wonder if some of these people don't know I don't think that, obviously, they're on top of the food chain here, but they're probably let into a little bit more of something. I mean, if you're friends with Ray Kurzweil and you hang out with him, you got to wonder, what are you figuring out about how things really are going on than the random person on the street kind of thing, I mean, transhumanism is the way, as we all know. That is the big goal.
Oh, no doubt about it. And they're moving closer and closer to it every day. And, maybe people think about that in a different kind of way. Like, it's not all about, say, robotics or mechanical this or that, or necessarily hooking your brain to a computer. It's about hijacking the mechanisms of biology and transforming it into something different and merging that with other types of technologies. So when you're looking at it from that point of view, you could see how they've got the groundwork set for that with some of these new therapies that they have out there, that they're calling something that it's not. They're calling it a vaccine when it's clearly not a vaccine by dictionary definition.
No, it's not. It's
By
absolutely not.
mainstream accounts, have they already like taken over and animated small animals? Like, have they taken over the brains of rats and like made the rats walk in a certain direction or do a specific
absolutely,
thing?
yeah. That's old
crazy.
technology. That's old technology.
How long ago do they say they started doing that?
Probably in the 1990s, and it's probably much older than that if you look at the classified programs and the black budget community kind of thing, because usually that's about 30 to 50 years ahead of what's in the mainstream.
Yeah, exactly. So doesn't that mean that already in the 1990s it could be done to humans for sure, 100%?
It probably could be done, but I don't think they had quite enough of the tools in order to implement it at that point yet. See, what they do first with all of these things is they put them through their paces through the military industrial complex. They try to figure out which ways they could weaponize it and all the possible ways it could be used. And once they figure out all the ways they could weaponize it and use it, then they slowly start to release these into the public domain. That's how this stuff works. So it goes through the military channels first and the black budget projects community, that kind of thing first. It's called special access programs.
Yeah.
And you have to have different security clearances in order to work with this stuff, and you sign non-disclosure agreements. And usually it's through military subcontractors, corporations. That way they could keep it secret as proprietary information rather than being accessible through Freedom of Information Act requests. That's how these things work. And generally, a lot of these technologies come forward through these programs and are released into the public later on after they've been purposed out through the military industrial complex. And all these things that they put forward in the public domain as technologies are what they call dual use, which means they could have a civilian use or a military application. So even your iPhone has a military application. Make no doubt about that. All these technologies are dual use.
I don't think that they're going to tell people that they've already controlled human brains, but I just don't see why not in the military. If they're doing it to rats, then they've probably done it to at least a human successfully.
Oh, I've no doubt about that.
Yeah, for sure they're doing it. Like, they're just not doing it, like, they're not talking about it. But if they've done it to one person, it means they can do it to anybody.
Right.
It's just insane.
A lot of it is setting up the infrastructure in order to be able to do that stuff too. And they're rolling that infrastructure out as we speak. And that's a lot of the thing too, because they may have a limited range with certain technologies in order to do these things, or, that kind of thing. That's why they want this whole grid. That's why they're trying to cover the world with these, what do you call it? Those satellites or whatever, those little CubeSat satellites that they have. Yeah, Starlink, that kind of thing. They give internet to the world. See, there's a reason for that. That's dual use, for sure. That's not because they want everybody to get Wi-Fi everywhere. Like, they give a crap if you could browse the internet. Like, seriously, think about that. They have other things in mind for that.
All right, so let's see. Let's jump down through this article, and we'll pick back up. I don't know if Crower came back or not. I think he's still...
I do not sense the Birdman's presence at this time.
No, I don't think so.
Okay, here we go. The media appear to have exerted a considerable impact on voters' judgments of what they considered the major issues of the campaign, even though the questionnaire specifically asked them to make judgments without regard to what politicians might be saying at the moment. The correlation between the major item emphasis on the main campaign issues carried by the media and voters' independent judgments of what were the important issues was plus 0.967. I don't actually know what that number means, but... Between minor item emphasis on the main campaign issues and voters' judgments, the correlation was plus 0.979. In short, the data suggests a very strong relationship between the emphasis placed on different campaign issues by the media, reflecting to a considerable degree the emphasis by candidates, and the judgments of voters as to the salience and importance of various campaign topics. So are what they saying that people just bought whatever the media was selling and it didn't actually matter what the actual issues were with the current events or whatever?
Essentially, that's what their data led them to believe. Should be pretty telling, right?
And what do we have nowadays? I mean, we have everything controlled from the top down, as we've discussed so many times by PR Newswire and Business Wire and all those things. We know that it's just hand-delivered to them at this point via digital. It's just like, this is the news stories today. Bleep, read that in your lovely little local accent. You're in Texas? Well, give it that drawl, baby.
Yeah, and you could see examples of this all across the internet. Just look on YouTube for all the different local newscasts where they're saying exactly the same script, word for word, verbatim, in all these different news markets all across the country and around the world. It's the same thing, and this is what they do. It's how they set forward from the top down whatever agenda that they want set for that particular day or time, or, for that particular news item.
But while the three presidential candidates placed widely different emphasis upon different issues, the judgments of the voters seem to reflect the composite of the mass media coverage. And what that means is they took all the different bits of what the mass media was shoving and put it together and said, well, this is my point of view. Sounds an awful lot like the ridiculous NPC types today who literally just download whatever they're told and then regurgitate it on Twitter. You do have your proper pronouns on Twitter, don't you?
Yeah, pronouns, man. That's a big concern this day and age, Not anything else going on in the world. Pronouns, that's the important thing.
Well, I'm offended.
Good, you fit right in then, Jason. I mean, honestly.
My feelings. These things are important.
Good. Now I don't feel alone, because I was feeling offended earlier when you guys were talking about racism. And so now you're offended too. So now we're all, feeling better, because the more offended that we feel, the more relevant to society we feel.
Whose fault is it
we're
now, though?
victims.
It's been Trump's fault for the past 4 years. Who can I blame?
Orange Man, still bad. You can still blame him. They're still trying to blame him for stuff. It's his fault Biden fell up the stairs, I guess. I don't know.
This suggests that voters pay some attention to all the political news, regardless of whether it is from or about any particular favored candidate. Because the tables we have seen reflect the composite of all the respondents, it is possible that individual differences, reflected in party preferences and in a predisposition to look mainly at material favorable to one's own party, well, that's definitely true, are lost by lumping all the voters together in the analysis. Now, if I'm reading this correctly, I think things are very different now. The Democratic Party trotted out an obviously senile old man who is on camera being a child predator multiple times. Not to mention all of the with facts accusations against his family being complete piece of shit criminals. And supposedly a zillion people still backed this person up just because he was a Democrat and never Trump. Now, I'm not pro any of these people, but that was appalling to me when I saw people who were defending old Sniffer.
Well, the rules are changed now, Jason. That's the one thing you got to understand. The rules are changed. They've thrown this whole idea of really trying to convince the people that we have a legitimate two-party system. They've thrown that out the window. They've shown us in no uncertain terms they're just going to do what they want to do and put whoever in the position that they want, regardless of what the people think, and then they're going to claim otherwise, that this is vastly who the people wanted. And they're going to do that through whatever illegitimate methods that they can. And they've made that abundantly clear to us. Your vote means nothing. They've made that abundantly clear in this last election. They're not even trying to hold up the facade of the two-party system anymore. I think they're aware that people are waking up to the idea that, you know what, maybe this whole, left and right paradigm thing, maybe these two parties are actually working together to do stuff. I think more people are becoming aware of that.
Yeah, against us.
Right. That's the thing. And I think that it's really kind of mind-numbing for people when they come to the realization that the reality that they've been presented and they believed all their lives isn't true. And that you actually have these sick psychopaths up there in positions of government that are plotting against you. When you come to that realization, it's kind of chilling, and it's a lot of people get stuck there, and they freeze, and they don't know what to do with this information. So they cling even harder to the left-right paradigm, and they cling even harder to this other savior figure that they've adopted for themselves. Orange type savior figures and things like that, and and they believe utter nonsense from psyops put out there in order to keep them on the hook, just to keep them committed to that idea, so that they have a fall guy to blame when things go wrong. See, and that's kind of the whole thing. They've divided this into the two segments. It's either you're an American and you're good with diversity, and you like all of these things, and you're tolerant of different people's views, and you believe in helping people, and that all people need help sometimes, and that it's good to give all your tax money to the government so that they could help these people and do all these programs. Or you're one of these QAnon supporters, and you're a conspiracy nut job, and you think this and that, and you even tried to do an insurrection in the Capitol to take over the government. By the way, worst insurrection in world history, guys. That's beside the point. But that's kind of what they're trying to do. They're trying to outline this new dichotomy. See?
Wait, but Wayne, it looked fabulous, though. Everybody's like, if your right side looked best, then the camera was on the right side, and the lighting was so good. Everything was captured. So in terms of visuals, it was a success. But other than that, I would say not very impressive.
Yeah, man. I mean, if this is, how they organized an insurrection, well, they were kind of dumbasses because they forgot their guns, didn't they? I don't know too many patriot groups that would go anywhere without their guns, let alone do an insurrection. But, I mean, come on. What kind of retarded nonsense is this that they're trying to push on us? But this is all part and parcel of what they're doing. See, they've kind of changed up the dynamic here. Okay, so now they're trying to convince you're either Democrat and you're a liberal that's for opening up the borders and self-destructing this country and all of these other things that are self-destructive to humanity in general, under the name of tolerance, or you're one of these nut jobs, these far right-wing nut job racist bigots and that kind of thing. See, they've created this new dichotomy out of it. So now they've kind of made it public shame to relate as a Republican. But by and large, there's a lot of people that still kind of consider themselves Republican and have these more conservative viewpoints in this country. But it's getting to be to the point where, they're becoming the minority because of the news media pushing these liberal agendas. And that's kind of where it's at. So they're steering this. They're targeting the next generation and the generation afterwards with these ideas. It's not so much the ones that are here now. Like our generation, we know things we know. We've lived a little and we've seen the world a different way. But the ones that are coming up now, they're going to think there's 327 different genders, and they're going to think that that's perfectly normal and okay. And they're going to think that, it's fine that there shouldn't be national borders or national sovereignty anywhere. And they should think that they shouldn't have the right to defend themselves. They should depend upon the police state to come defend them if they wind up in trouble. These are the kind of things. These are self-destructive behaviors that these people are pushing, and that's kind of where they're changing up the dynamic here slightly. It's always been the Hegelian dialectic, the control mechanism, but now they've completely removed the premise that people have any say whatsoever in what's going on, and it's a slow rollout process for changing up this dynamic. So people aren't fully catching on to that idea yet. So we'll see what happens come the next presidential election cycle. I'm curious to see what kind of a potato they roll out at then. So it's interesting to see. But if people will really buy into that or not, time will tell,
Yeah, no, I'm with you, man. I keep wondering what's the next step with the transhumanist agenda, though. They're trying to pretend like this is the same old politics that it's always been, and whether people realize it or not, 2021 is the future. They try and convince us that things are the same way they were 50 years ago, but that's just not true. So where do we go from here? What's going to happen? Like when do things start coming out in the open? I guess we could say that changes everything.
Front door locks. Front door locks. People will be willing to interface their hand with technology in order for the convenience of locking their car, going in the house. I think that it's going to have to do with people's hands.
Well, once we go to digital identity and digital currency and, these biometric type measures, when your bank account and your social behavior, your social credit score, everything's all tied together into one database that knows who you are and where you are at all given times, that's the beginning of the end. That's in my view. So.
Okay, but I'm pretty sure
when you can't pay your bill for the first time, that's when you really know it's out in the open. Oh, you can't pay your bill because your Rose 777's girlfriend. Your Rose 777 is your girlfriend, so you can't pay your bill because that takes your social credit score down. That's when it really makes it obvious.
Well, see, that's the thing. When they start making it so you can't buy the necessities you need to live because you did something that, say, is anti-government or spoke out against a government official or something. Like you said, Joe Biden is an old sniffer. He's old sniffer. He's a zombie. He's a potato. He's a senile old man. He gropes children. You said stuff like that. Well, that's going to cause a drop in your social credit score. And eventually, if your points drop low enough, then they'll lock out your bank account. So now you can't purchase anything. So you can't buy food to live. So you better wise up and do some good deeds so that you can get access back to your money. See, and that's kind of
that's why they're doing everything digital.
That's the direction it's going. Right. That's exactly why everything's going digital. And this whole vaccine nonsense ties together with it too, whether people want to believe it or not.
It absolutely does.
I've talked ad nauseum about this stuff for the longest time. And if people don't want to take the time or effort to actually take a look and see that there is a connection there between vaccines and digital currency and vaccine passports and biometric data tracking and all of these different things, well, that's on them at this point. I mean, the data's out there. It's public domain. You could look at it. You could look up patent number 060606, patented by Bill Gates and Gavi. And you could look at the programs they're rolling out in Africa right now to put a digital tracker on a vaccine in Africa. These kind of things. It's out there. It's in the public domain. It's not conspiracy theory. It's not conjecture. These are real technologies that exist right now, and they're tied directly to this whole agenda when it comes down to it. And people don't want to believe it because it violates their cognitive dissonance. But it doesn't make it any less true, does it? This stuff's out there. This is the direction they're going. And like I said, I've talked ad nauseum about this stuff. And at this point, if people don't get it or don't want to even take the time to maybe look into it, well, that's on them. I've done my job. I'm just putting the warning out there. I'm a messenger, nothing more. So if people don't want to take it seriously, that's their prerogative. I don't expect people to believe anything I ever say. Go look it up for yourself. You might be shocked what you find.
Yeah, no, I'm totally with you. And this, of course, is one of my favorite subjects because I think it's so important. All the social engineering is leading us to this transhumanism thing, but the good stuff isn't for us. I don't think it's ever going to be for us unless something changes. This is all about, just like you were saying, the reason why everything is going digital. People have to understand, why is this all going digital? Why the push for everything? Why getting everybody used to everything digital? Because digital is not real world, physical, tangible, or analog, whatever word you want to use. These are things that can be controlled by the flip of a switch in software somewhere that you have no control over whatsoever. Every single device you use, no matter what it is, that software, that operating system is controlled from somewhere else, should someone desire it.
And it could be trolled too. You accidentally said trolled instead of controlled, but it could be trolled and controlled.
Oh yeah, both. Or it could be hijacked by a third party. And that's the other thing. I mean, that's a real threat as well. Say you have some kind of a microchip implant or something, or you have a medical device, like say right now there's pacemakers. I mean, this is an undeniable thing. Well, it doesn't take much. They could actually now put a chip in that and connect it to your smartphone, so that if you need to hit the button for whatever reason to or check the status of your pacemaker or whatever to see if it's controlling your beats per minute correctly, or if you need to increase your beats per minute or whatever, that utility exists. Now, somebody could hack that, a third party, and that creates a new type of cybercrime that many of these government agencies and think tank groups and stuff are very aware of, and they're worried about. But at the same token, I don't think necessarily hackers are the ones that are the biggest worry when this stuff rolls out. And that's just one example. Now take that to the next level when there's something else, some other type of a device that controls, say you have seizures, say you have a seizure disorder, and they could put a chip in your head that regulates these seizures, and you could track it with your smartphone, and you could control it with your smartphone. If you have some kind of a seizure or something, you could hit the button on your smartphone, and it'll give your brain a little electric shock and stop the seizure. Well, that's a technology that could be hacked, or it could be it could have a back door installed in it, which I assure you it probably will by the manufacturer, and that could be controlled by some other party within that said corporation or whatever. So there's a lot of things to think about with this whole concept, and a lot of different directions to go. And these are just very primitive versions of this I'm talking about right now. These are existing technologies, and they could be utilized in many different ways.
So we've kind of gone through the majority of what this document says, and I think the point has been made. Let's take this further. You're obviously continuing your research, and your focus is always on transhumanism to one degree or another. Tell me where you see this going. I know I have the general review. The general view that everything is going to be tied together digitally, and the quote-unquote vaccine is just another one of those things. But what have you come across? You're the one who almost always brings these very interesting papers, whether it's from last year, 10 years ago, or sometimes 40, 50 years ago, and it's still relevant today, eerily enough. But what have you come across? Let's talk about some of what we can foresee coming, especially in the light that they seem to just be going for it. This great reset, which is just the New World Order with different lipstick on, all this stuff. What have you come across? Let's talk about it.
Well, basically, it'll be a slow transition. They consider us to be cyborgs already. Okay, and many of these people that think about this stuff, like Kurzweil and others, even Elon Musk has come out and said, we're already cyborgs. The only difference is the input-output capability. So like you have your smartphone, a lot of people wear like a smart watch or something, tracks their heart rate and this kind of thing. You could look at that information in your smartphone. And this could be broadcast or transmitted to a third party somewhere, like some kind of a health management type of place. And that's probably the next place they're going. They're actually planning on revamping the entire healthcare system to accommodate this transhumanist paradigm. I've seen think tank papers on that, and I think we might have actually covered that at one point here, or maybe we were planning on covering it and never quite did. It's called the Triangle of Health Medicine or something like that. It's the name of the paper, and it's from the Alberta Heritage Foundation, and it talks about this very thing, switching up the medical care model from a model of, say, disease treatment to an enhancement model, where people will basically want to have different enhancements, not necessarily because they have some type of a disability, but that's where it'll start. It'll start as using these cybernetic enhancements and these transhuman enhancements to help people with a disability. And then from there, it goes on to ask the ethical question, well, if we could do this for a disabled person and give them the ability to perform beyond human capabilities, normal human capabilities, shouldn't we make this available ethically to humanity at large? And the answer to that question would be yes, according to them. So they're trying to transition this into an enhancement type of a medical system. And that's the kind of things that they talk about. So I could see this slowly rolling out, coming down the pike here, where you're going to start to see, more invasive type technologies coming to be. It's going to start out with wearables. That's what they're talking about right now, wearables. So if you have one of those smartwatches or whatever that tracks your heart rate, your Fitbit or something like that, that's the start of it. They could track other things with that Fitbit. Now, right now, they only track a select couple things on there that they make available to you through the app and stuff like that, which connects directly with your phone from this. But rest assured, the sensors and stuff they have in those are reading far more than just your heart rate and the number of steps you're taking and that kind of thing. And this information is actually going to a third party. So, and you don't necessarily know who that third party is. And that's the scary part. So, I mean, they're doing this stuff now, and it's only going to get like more invasive, and it's going to invade your privacy more as time goes on. And eventually it's going to get to the point where we're talking being connected to the Internet of Things, the Internet of Thoughts, the Internet of Bodies. These are all things, and that's stuff that we've gone over on this show before, too. We did the paper on the Internet of Bodies, and I think we did one of the papers on the Internet of Thoughts. If not, it's one we should probably look at sometime soon. But, I mean, all these things are what I see coming down the pike. They're talking about them, and they have their golden boy Elon Musk out there in the forefront talking about this stuff, and he's just the poster boy. There's other people and other groups that are working on these technologies that are much further along than he is with his Neuralink product, but this is the one that's getting the mainstream attention, okay? Because he's their golden boy. He's the one that they chose to put out there as the puppet on the string to bring people into this whole idea. And he's the one that has largely been out there saying, we need to do something about artificial intelligence. If we don't merge with it, it's going to destroy us. And that's why he's pushing for this whole brain-computer interface thing, this Neuralink. That's one of the main aspects of that he's doing. And I said a couple years ago when I was on Crow's show, when I first brought out it was actually before I brought out my autism book. I said, I'm going to make a prediction here. Within the next year and a half, 2 years or so, you're going to see somebody come out and say that they're going to be able to effectively cure autism through one of these type of implants. And sure enough, I think it was 2019, sometime mid to late 2019, Elon Musk said he thinks Neuralink will be able to solve the problem of autism. So, I mean, this is the direction this stuff's going. So, like, I've done enough research and looking into these things and reading these papers and, the works of these guys like, what's his name, Kurzweil, and these different ones, the ideas that they have and the things they want to do. And they're always going to try and roll it out as being, like, beneficial medically for people first. And then from there, they're going to push beyond the borders of just using it as a medical treatment and do it as an enhancement technology. And that's what they're looking for. They want to become Superman. They want to be the Ubermensch. They want to become God in no uncertain terms. And they see the use of these transhumanist technologies as the fruition of that. And I've tied all these ideas clear back to the ancient mystery schools. It's a perversion of some of the ideas they originally taught there, but it's definitely the same idea. And this is what they view as their great work. This is the great work, to become immortal, to live forever, have total absolute control of everything, and be all powerful, to be God. It's the promise of the book of Genesis, to be as gods. It's the lie, the great lie that the serpent gave to Eve in the Garden of Eden, to be as gods. And that's what they're looking for. They want to become God, and they see this as being their path to do so. And they see this as a fulfillment of many of these ancient esoteric ideas. So that's the direction I see it going. It's going to be a slow creep for a while there for the next couple decades, but eventually it's going to get to be a normal thing where people have, say, bionic limbs and these kind of ideas, things like that, prosthetics, neuroprosthetics. That's another big one that's coming. Neuroprosthetics.
Meaning that you can feel them, that kind of thing, like it's tied into your brain directly?
It's a prosthetic for your brain. It'll create a neocortex of sorts for you and connect your brain directly to the internet. So you'll be able to access all information at all times. That's what I'm talking about when I'm saying neuroprosthetics. And they'll use this ostensibly to cure things like Alzheimer's and autism and many of these different disorders in people, and as treatments for that. But there's other things they have in mind with it. But that's neuroprosthetics. This would be any device that you could hook to your brain that could increase your intellect capacity. So. And
I think that would have been episode 152 when you said that, if not 109.
Was that the first one?
Might have been 125. That's the one that I did about autism before I wrote the book.
Oh.
It was when I was in the writing phase of the book.
Right.
Okay, well, I won't forget that.
Yeah, I don't know. I've done so many episodes with you guys now that it's hard to keep track of them all.
Well, plus what we do every week.
I can't keep track anymore. There's too many Wayne McCrory episodes that I can't even keep track. I could kind of memorize the numbers, but like specifically what was said in each and every one, there's so many that relate to each other, whether it's like the fourth industrial revolution to vaccines or, esoteric alchemy. It's just, it all interrelates with each other. So anyway, by the way, everyone should check out all the episodes with Wayne.
Yeah, there's a lot tied to the whole narrative. So, I mean, it's amazing how these things all tie together in some way, shape, or form.
All right, so let's do a game here. It's called let's see what things look like in 10 years. So, do you think Neuralink will have their shit together by then? That it's a what would you say, a common consumer item by that point?
In 10 years, I would say it's probably not going to be a common consumer item. It might be more of a medical innovation at that point, used to maybe alleviate things like paralysis of different limbs, those kind of things, maybe Alzheimer's treatment, these type of things, possibly autism as well. It might be a kind of thing for autism or schizophrenia. You might see some biomedical applications for psychological use for different things like that. That's what I'm thinking will be the first rollout of that kind of thing within the next 10 years. Beyond that, I don't think we're getting to the point where it's, say, like Ready Player One, like until maybe 15, 20 years from now. And at that point, you'll be able to just jack into the game in your head without like leaving your chair or anything, and just play in a digital world in your mind. That kind of thing at that point. And a lot of it will probably be geared towards gaming and stuff like that in the beginning. But that's not the ultimate use of it. But that's one of the ways that they'll control people. They'll keep them sectioned off into these little digital sub-realities where they could just exist in these digital worlds, playing their games or keeping themselves occupied, however it may be. And they'll probably use that as a method for harvesting some type of a crypto dollar of sorts. I would suspect that they would use that that electrical impulse that people would put into this, per se, into this game in their gaming, to kind of feed into that type of a scenario and further enrich corporations and stuff like that. I would suspect that's where that would go first.
So I think Crow's back too, but this is why we're always warning about what the dangers of digital truly are. As I said, that with all the back doors, do you want someone having a back door into your brain in, well, whatever, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, whatever it is? Does everybody remember that in the 80s there was this huge push for this sort of, I guess cyberpunk is the general term for the genre, but this concept of that the corporations rule, there's no more real governments. If they are, they're very minor in comparison to the governments. And everything was about the advancement of what can you do to advance yourself physically, and the jacking in thing and all that. There was Neuromancer, Blade Runner is an example, but there's tons of them. And it's like it laid the groundwork for what's coming. And as Crow and I always joke, I mean, soon all governments are going to be Taco Bell, right?
Yeah, man, it's the way it is. It's the corporations run the show. It's just they're taking the veil off now and showing you how it really is. For all this time, they've had these quote-unquote governments up there being in charge, but it's always been the corporations behind the veil running things. See,
May
it's
I
just
present
this facade.
an alternative view to what you said, Wayne?
Sure.
Okay, so I think that while it would be possible within 10 years to do that kind of cool healing, like healing paralyzed limbs and stuff, I think that that's going to be like a dangling carrot in front of people, and that even in 10 years, nothing with this interfacing of technology is going to do anything helpful for the consumer, but they're going to show that it's possible by using maybe celebrities or maybe a few select disabled people.
Oh, you're right on
And
target, Rose.
yeah,
You're
and then
not off base at all. You're right on target with that, because that's
yeah.
exactly this won't be a technology that's affordable for your average person. And it's not going to be something that the insurance is going to cover for you. As I said, they're
medical is an
planning for that.
upgrade.
Right.
Medical is an upgrade.
Right.
But people are going to think it's possible, and that's why they're going to upgrade their own little personal technologies to the point where all of a sudden they're going to be interfacing with technology more than they ever could have imagined, because of like the false hope that it's going to help them, when really all it's going to do is keep hurting them over and over and over again. And then some of them aren't even going to realize what's hurting them.
Right. Or not only that, the other possibility with that is they could give you this innovation that really does help you, but then they have the power to turn it off for whatever reason. Like, say your social credit score drops. Well, guess what? You don't get to walk today. Or, your bank account, you stopped paying your bill to them, because I'm sure there will be a monthly service fee involved with this, because they have to do software updates and stuff like that. So you don't pay your bill, so they shut off your service, so you can't walk today. See, it's really kind of a devious thing, and they will use it as a carrot to dangle in front of people. You're absolutely correct. That's exactly what they're doing with it now. See, they're offering all this promise to all these many people that have these really legitimate issues that they deal with, and they're giving them this false hope that they'll be able to do this. But there's always a caveat, isn't there? There's always strings attached to all these things that they put out there, and that's the bottom line of it all. So, and the other thing is, you might not be able to say, if you want to get this cybernetic upgrade, well, sign over all your property rights to us, and we'll take care of you. We'll give it to you then, and give up your right to bear arms, and we'll give it to you. It's the same thing they're doing with legalized marijuana in a lot of places. Like here in Pennsylvania, you could have medical marijuana right now. You could get a medical marijuana card, but you can't own firearms if you have one. See, it's the same kind of thing. So here's a little something that'll help you. But in order to get this thing that'll help you, you have to give up something else. You have to give up some other right. And that might even be your bodily autonomy when it comes down to it with something like that. So you're absolutely spot on with that. I don't deny that at all. But I could see them actually trying to introduce this in this innovative medical way within the next 10 years or so. This is probably where they'll start with it, by rolling it out this way. This celebrity, like you said, they always use celebrities, was able to walk because of this neural implant that they got. And they've already started rolling some of this stuff out.
Well, at some
It's going to
point,
be the Christopher Reeves Foundation or something.
well, they've made
doubt it.
movies already about this, guys. I would expect that at some point, if we stay on this trajectory. By the way, they're already trying to close hospitals in the state I'm in. On the back of COVID. I guess they weren't as busy as they claimed. But what you see is, if you can't afford to upgrade your liver and your liver is sick, well, you couldn't afford the upgrade. So in a way, medical care becomes an upgrade for fee. And everything about medical care begins to be viewed as upgrades. In other words, we got all this technology. We can make a liver that lasts longer than you will. Can you afford it? And by the way, if you can't, then you're stuck with the defective one you were born with.
Right.
Or someone with a social credit score can nominate you so that you're eligible. Someone has to vouch for you or something like that.
Oh, yeah. All these things are definitely possibilities with it. And it's all things that I'm sure the bioethicists and stuff have had meetings about.
Bioethicists, that's a good one.
Yeah, bioethicist. Yeah, I know. That is a good one, isn't it? But that's what they call themselves. And they think they're oh so smart, don't they? And they oh so care about people. But, yeah, I digress about that point, though.
So can you give the definition of a bioethicist?
This would be somebody who determines if it's ethical to do something in terms of biology or not, like,
Yeah, it's like
doing some
Gattaca.
kind of an enhancement. What's that?
It's like Gattaca, like in the movie Gattaca, how everyone was being genetically modified, and I feel like that film was about bioethics.
Oh,
That was
yeah. I
the
mean,
overwhelming theme of that film, because there were the people that didn't have that, and so they were treated like second class citizens.
That was a version of Brave New World in a way. It was almost a caste system, so
Yeah.
you were allowed to be special if you were casted correctly. And so the main star, Ethan Hawke, was of a lower caste and faked his way into a higher caste to prove, we can do everything you can, we just don't have the genetics.
amazing how all these things turn up again and again and again in fiction going back for hundreds of years, isn't it?
Well, the new one is post-apocalyptic views. That's what's been getting pushed hard behind the zombie thing, which are both probably going to come to pass at some level.
Yeah.
Well, we're already seeing the zombie thing, aren't we? I mean, if you don't do what the masses want, which is right now wear a mask, take a vaccine, all that kind of thing, well, then there's something wrong with you, and you need to be ostracized.
There's 3 older people in my neighborhood that have taken the vaccine, and each of them got really, really sick when they took the second dose.
Well, that's
Yeah, I
not
don't
really a
doubt
shocker. It's
That's the other thing. The media covers up these reports, but they're out there. I mean, that people are having these severe reactions to this thing. They cover it up. They don't want to put it out there, so they won't talk about it. They'll just say it's a very rare thing if you have a reaction to it. No, it's a lot more prevalent than what they say. That's for sure.
The
That's
Amish,
just the reported ones.
yeah, the Amish are going to start looking pretty good to a lot of us.
I would
and
say.
that's because they're not going to be all screwed up. Well,
Oh,
they already are
probably.
not all screwed up.
They'll be working godly examples of what we once tried to be.
All right, guys, we're winded down here. Anybody want to throw out any final thoughts?
I would say just, take your time, look into these things on your own. Don't take anything I have to say or Jason has to say or Rose or Crow for that matter. Don't take what we're saying to be a truth. Go and look for yourself, make your own decisions, use your own mind. Look at things with your own mind. Use your own brain. Think things through. Use a little logic and common sense, and look at the information that's out there. Like, all this stuff's public domain. It's not hard to find. You just have to look for it and be willing to put a little time into researching it or reading about this stuff. It's out there. So I would say just don't go out there and, take what the media says to you at face value. If there's any lesson to be learned, it's exactly that. Don't believe what the media tells you. Go look for yourself.
Yep. Yeah, I'm with you there. All right, so tonight, Crow and I assume tonight, Crow, are we dropping the episode tonight?
Yeah. Doing it.
All right, so that will be with Mr. Austin Walters. I'm not jumping ahead, right?
No.
No.
So
There's one thing I would like to add. I just want to encourage people to remember that you don't want to sacrifice certain things for convenience. It was a big mistake I made a lot when I was younger, and I wish that I understood that cause and effect, the effect isn't always immediate. Sometimes the effect is delayed. And so it's just sometimes not worth it. So I guess going into this transhumanist thing, you might be wondering if something's worth it, like getting on the plane. Maybe I'll just get that vaccine. It's just not. It's not worth it. Just stick to being a human being and know who you are.
Absolutely. All right, and before I forget,
Don't trade your soul for goods and services. Is that what you're?
that has a familiar
saying?
vibe
That's
to
a more
it.
succinct way of saying it, Crow. Thank you.
So anyway, yeah, we're dropping Austin Walters tonight on Crow 777 Radio. He's this is his second time back. He is a biomagnetism healer, or a. Is there another term he uses as well, or is it just biomagnetism?
Yeah, the biomagnetism covers it. Yeah.
Yeah, and he gives an update and everything he's been going through with his wife. So hopefully people will listen hard to that one. That was kind of rough hearing what he had to say, especially in hour 2 when he really went into detail. But that's tonight, and of course this weekend, Rose and I will be at the Solar Return Festival. We're leaving tomorrow morning to get to South Carolina. Hopefully I'll see a whole lot of you folks there. That's going to be cool. So, all right, that's going to do it for us, guys. I hope you enjoyed this show. Have a great one. Take care.
Will speak, manifest beside me, my angel, for all to see. universe will speak, manifest. This I need, my angel, for all to see.